Good evening and welcome back, everyone. My valued viewers from the Laura Ingraham Reports. This is Laura Ingraham. As a reminder for anyone just joining us, I've moved forward with my own dedicated channel outside the main platform. If you haven't already, head over and take a look. Link is right there. Subscribing there helps ensure you never miss an update on major stories as they break. I'm working hard to build toward that 500,000 subscriber milestone in the coming weeks, and every new follower makes a meaningful difference in getting these important discussions out wider. Your support truly counts. Now, let's address the individual at the center of today's focus, Stephen Miller. He's widely recognized as one of the driving forces behind the administration's toughest immigration enforcement measures, including large-scale deportation operations. Within inner circle discussions, Miller has also advocated for assertive territorial expansions. Ideas like bringing Greenland under U.S. control or exploring similar arrangements with neighboring nations to project strength and secure strategic advantages. These positions have drawn attention, but not always the kind that strengthens the broader agenda. Encouragingly, a growing number of voices inside Washington, including influential Republicans who have historically aligned with the president, are now expressing serious reservations. They're describing Miller's role and rhetoric as increasingly problematic, even calling him a liability that reflects poorly on the country as a whole. While some might consider that language restrained, others see it as pointing to a deeper mismatch with core American principles and effective governance. Either way, the conversation is shifting, and that's worth noting. The most recent and pointed example comes from Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina. In recent weeks, as Miller continued pressing forward on ideas like acquiring Greenland and amid reports of serious incidents involving violence against U.S. citizens in places like Minneapolis, Tillis chose his words carefully but firmly. He characterized the underlying reasoning as resembling the hasty, underdeveloped plans one might expect from someone far below cabinet-level responsibility, more like an entry-level manager overreaching than seasoned leadership. In his assessment, such approaches fall well short of what's required. He questioned whether certain figures should remain in their roles, extending that scrutiny to Miller directly. Tillis pointed out how premature and unfounded statements, such as quickly branding an individual a terrorist without verified details from the scene, placed the president in an awkward position, only for later evidence to contradict those claims. Time and again, he observed, Miller delivers results that align with a pattern of misjudgment and poor execution. When asked directly why dismissal might be warranted, Tillis deferred final judgment to the president, but made his own view clear. If the decision rested with him, key individuals like this would no longer hold influence in the nation's capital. He applied similar reasoning to related figures, suggesting a careful review of their overall performance would reveal little to justify continued tenure. Over the past year, he argued, decisions have eroded confidence in areas where Republicans should hold unquestioned strength, namely border protection and sensible immigration policy. These were signature issues that helped secure electoral success. Yet repeated errors have damaged that advantage and handed opponents unnecessary leverage. That level of direct critique from a sitting senator carries real weight, especially when it comes from someone whose support the administration relies on for legislative progress and political stability. If that assessment felt pointed, the story doesn't end there. More layers emerged quickly, and the discomfort for Miller only deepened. It should raise legitimate concerns for both the president and his closest advisors when a pivotal Republican ally, one needed to push forward key priorities and safeguard against potential challenges like impeachment proceedings, repeatedly voices opposition in such public terms. Senator Tillis has done exactly that on multiple occasions now. Most recently, this came amid developments involving the retrieval of materials tied to the 2020 election ballots in Georgia, actions reportedly encouraged or supported by Miller's circle. As one of the most persistent voices claiming widespread fraud in that contest, Miller has floated concepts like placing federal oversight over all elections or deploying immigration enforcement personnel at polling locations to ensure security. In response to these proposals, including the broader idea of centralizing election administration under national control, Tillis weighed in once more just yesterday. Here's the essence of what he shared with reporters. When asked about the push to bring elections fully under federal authority, Tillis traced the concept back directly to Miller. He stated his consistent opposition, holding the same view now as he did several years ago when similar proposals surfaced from the other side of the aisle. That said, he acknowledged that measures like the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act could hold merit in today's environment, particularly if bipartisan support could be secured in the Senate. He noted significant changes since prior debates, including the arrival of millions of individuals across the border under the previous administration. Numbers that, in theory, could translate to potential voting eligibility questions in states with more lenient rules. Protecting election integrity in that context makes sense to him. However, he drew a firm line against full federal takeover of elections, reiterating his disagreement. In a pointed aside, he suggested the proponent might benefit from revisiting elementary-level calculations, as even a young child could see the Senate lacks the necessary votes to advance such a plan. Tillis recounted his own actions following the 2020 results. He reached out personally to Republican governors and election officials in disputed states, offering to amplify any credible concerns on the floor if evidence of irregularities existed. Not a single one stepped forward with substantiation that their process had been compromised. With no basis found, he supported certification and believes the country must turn the page to focus on future challenges rather than revisiting settled matters. Tillis's reference to basic third-grade math rings accurate in this context. Beyond the numbers, one could reasonably argue that a refresher in foundational civics or constitutional structure might also prove useful. Understanding the limits of federal authority, the separation of powers, and the protections built into our system against over-centralization. For anyone inclined toward models of concentrated executive control, other nations operate that way, but it diverges sharply from the American framework designed to prevent precisely that concentration. Despite substantial policy differences I've held with Senator Tillis over the years, his willingness to speak plainly here deserves recognition. It serves as a reminder of the value in independent judgment, even within a party framework. Should future circumstances bring additional scrutiny to the administration, perhaps another round of impeachment considerations, this kind of forthrightness from key Republicans could prove pivotal.